Hey, I'm JD. Welcome to my channel. We're just going to do a really quick reassembly of this watch. I already rolled the mainspring in. I had to do that by hand. And here I'm just getting the arbor prepped to push that in the watch. I have find it very difficult to do that with gloves on, so I don't do it with gloves on these old pocket watches. And here I'm just grabbing this with a vise to make sure it's catching properly. And it has a pretty deep lid, so I'm snapping the lid on, and there it is, lid's on, watch is ready to go, and getting everything cleaned up. And now I'll put the glove on, what the heck. So the next thing here is I'm going to start assembling the movement here. Well, actually in this case here I'm popping one of the jewel settings out, and this is for the lower balance jewel, and I'm cleaning that jewel, so I have to take the screws out first, and they needed to be poked out from the other side. And, and then I popped the jewel setting out. I was able to take this out using 2 screwdrivers, but then I use a piece of pegwood to actually push the setting out from the other side, to throw it into a small copper container with lighter fluid in it, and then I'm able to wash that up nicely. I do that with all of the settings. I don't bother putting them in the cleaning machine because it's far too much chance of losing that setting in the cleaning machine. And I kind of play a little game of rubbing it around the watch paper to make it all of the chemicals go away, the lighter fluid. Clean it up with some Rodico, and then I've got to do the reinstallation. And this isn't too bad. I use the back end of a stick of pegwood to put that in place, and then I want to oil it. And sometimes you usually would oil the cap jewel. In this case, I oiled the bottom part of the jewel, not the cap jewel, but it'll work, no problem. And then put the screws back. Yeah, there we go. And for the second screw, because I don't think it was in super tight, I put a little bit of Loctite on there, and then put that screw in. So that'll hold well without a problem. So there we go. And when I cleaned it, I already pegged out all the holes, so that's already done. And now I want to just oil up the setting mechanisms in the back, make sure everything is working well. And the other half of the video is all real time. This sped this up because I did not have the sound on for this. I was listening to the radio while I was doing this. So here I'm just oiling all the points of contact and making sure I've got a good lubrication on the movement. So now in this phase, I'm just going to rebuild the watch. I had to look at it really quick with my iPhone. I take a picture all the time just to make sure the gears are going in the right place. Just makes it a little simpler to take pictures with your phone. And then put the barrel in place. So here I'm oiling the barrel, and I made the mistake of putting it upside down, and of course it's not going to work like that. What an idiot. So a little lubrication in the hole, put it the right way. Every now and then your brain just falls asleep. Now, this watch is interesting. It's a Rockford watch, and the top plate actually holds the pallet fork and the escapement wheel independently of the lower plate, or the lower parts of the watch. So you can work on those after you've put the main plate on, which is actually a smart idea because you don't have to concern yourself with aligning those gears for a full plate watch. If anyone's worked on a full plate watch, they know how difficult it is to actually align all the gears, especially when you get to the pallet fork and the escapement wheel. The bigger gears tend to find the pivots, and the smaller gears are a little harder sometimes. So here I'm doing that. I'm cleaning I'm hand cleaning the pallet fork here. I always do that with pallet forks. This was in pretty good condition, so there's no problem with this one at all. And here I'm trying to reduce the size of the hole of the for this bridge that goes up. It's called a cock when it's 1 screw and coming over, and a bridge when it's 2 screws. So what was happening is that the hole on the plate was stripped. So the threads were stripped on the holes in the plate. So I used a concave stake to push the material inward, which helped with the hole. Now I also put a little bit of Loctite in that hole. At the end of the day, none of this mattered because I ended up finding a different screw and rethreading it. But this is not a bad approach to it. If the screw is a little loose, and you can use Loctite to hold it in place. But this little bridge or cock is very important to hold the stud for the hairspring. So the stud for the hairspring is not held by the balance cock. It's held by that little bridge. You'll see that later on when I do the reassembly. So these screws went in very nicely, and then the bridge for the I oiled that up, and then the bridge for the the mainspring went in nicely. No problems there at all, which is nice. And I call this a Frankenwatch only because it had a lot of things wrong with it that I wasn't expecting. And here I'm just lining up the pallet fork, and it's a straight pallet fork in the escapement wheel. A little difficult to see where the hole is, the jewel hole is on the bottom of that escapement wheel where the pinion is. So that's it, and then I go to the next phase of this job. Hey, JD here, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe, please hit like, and I'm screw hunting today. And I've got all these screws to look through because I want to get a screw for this little tiny bridge. And this little bridge, it's called a cock when it's one arm and a bridge when it's two. So I get to use that term all the time, but I got to replace this screw because it is this hole here right there is stripped, and I need to get a screw that's slightly bigger and try to fit that screw in there to make sure it's nice and tight. So I'm going to go screw hunting and see if I can find the right screws. So when you got to do that, that's why whenever for years I've been buying screws off of eBay, because I've always known that I'm going to need a lot of screws, and screw hunting is going to be part of the watch repair job. So there you go. There's a quick video for you on screw hunting. Oh my God, I have a lot of screws. And more screws. So I did manage to find a screw that works. It sits up a bit high, but I'm not concerned with this, as there's other screws that are not part of this particular watch. So I'm not worried about the authenticity of the actual movement. I just want to make sure that the screw works. So I'm going to put this plate in right now, or I'm going to try to put the plate in. All right, there we go. Now I just need to and there is the pallet fork in place. And this is the screw that I found in my thousands and thousands of screws. And because the steel screws are stronger than the nickel in the plate, it's probably nickel in the plate here, that you can screw them down like this, and you can back them off and then screw them down and then back them off, and you can keep doing that routine of screwing them down and backing them off until you get a really good fit. Try not to slip when you're doing this. It's red, yellow. I think I can. Black is also good, but this might be down as far as it needs to be down. I don't think it's going to come up from here. Yeah, it looks like it's bottomed out, which means this plate is in there well, like good. Now the screw sticks up a bit there, and the original screw, this is the original screw here, and it was stripped. So this was totally stripped. I looked for an original screw with a lesser head on it, but I'm not really concerned. I just want this watch to function. So I'll put this aside as one of the original screws, and I usually put that in one of my containers that I have for leftovers. So now if I put, I'm hoping here, I'm a little praying here, that if I put a bit of a wind on this watch, that I'm going to be able to get the pallet fork to go back and forth. So this is a big hope here, because I heard from the gentleman who owns this watch that he had brought it to a different watchmaker before and it wasn't working. So I think I have it in, nothing is winding here. Why would that be? Oh yeah, I know why. I'm a moron. So I've got, before I can wind this watch, turn that around here, I need to put in a few things here. I need to put this ratchet wheel in place here, and I can put it in the same way I had it before, which was, I think, this way. And the ratchet wheel is necessary to actually connect with the other wheel to wind. So that's the ratchet wheel there. It's brass, and you don't really need to oil under the ratchet wheel. It should move freely. And then I've got this wheel here, or this cover here that I've got, and I've got the click. The click would go in, it would slide in and connect with the ratchet wheel. So the click goes in here like that, and then the spring, this spring for the click, goes on the other side of the click, which is, this is a 2-tweezer job. If anybody tells you it's not a 2-tweezer job, they're full of it. Trying to keep this little bugger down while I move this part. I think I may need to get my famous stick. This is a Bergeron 7010, and it's wide, so it enables me to push down on it while I'm using it. So I can push down on this component here while I push the spring up. It's tricky stuff, baby, tricky stuff. There, the spring is now up. And there we go. And then the click is in place now. That'll work. But I've got to put this down on here. And I am going to put a little tiny bit of oil on here because I can see some wear on that part, and I'm thinking that it's for a reason, right? That may allow that to slide a bit easier. Now that goes on this way, I believe. I think it goes on like that. Yeah, that's the sliding part. So it goes on over the part like this. And it's just there to keep that wheel on. And there's a single screw that goes through the like that. Let's see if I can get that screw in here. That's tight enough there. And there should be a little bit of play in this. Hopefully that's not down too tight. I'll loosen this off just a tiny bit here, because So now when I wind this, still feels a bit stiff winding it, but that might be the nature of this old beast. So there we go, that's wound a bit. And I'm just hoping and praying that the pallet fork snaps back and forth. So let me see if I've got any action on the pallet fork. I'm getting a good snap one way and not necessarily the other way. And I was curious about the, I can adjust the, that's a good snap there. Yeah, I may have to adjust the banking pins on this. Alright, there we go. Slight adjustment on one of the banking pins. And I think I got action here. Yeah, we're good. It's ticking both ways, which is excellent. And now I want to put a little bit of 9415 oil on there, and that's a special type of, it's like a gel, and you put it on the face of the pallets, of the actual stones on the pallet fork, and they help actually slide with the feet, allow you to for the pallet fork stone to slide better with the feet of the escapement wheel. So I can, I'll do it like this, I guess. There's one. Sorry, tip it over, get the thing stuck in my fingers here. And I'll move this pallet fork to the other side now. And do two. Yeah, and I'm going to check this out under the microscope to make sure I've got the gel in the right place. So I'm going to throw these other found screws into yet another bin I have of screws. Even this one here that was the original, because it doesn't matter anymore. It looks like the threads in the original were good, but the actual movement wasn't. So I used the screw itself, I'd just dig a bit, go about 5 degrees, back it up, go 5 degrees, back it up, go 5 degrees. Just keep doing that to actually, it's like making the threads on the plate. I've done that before. It works pretty good. And so these screws here, it's always good to have boatloads of screws, by the way. So when you're a watchmaker, you need to be equipped with all the parts. So screws are one thing that you can't do without. And I find that my collection is good, so it's good enough to allow me to find pretty much any screw I want to find. So I'm never screwed. Little joke there. But I do need to dig in again, because now I've got this screw here, which is part of a lever that holds the hairspring is pegged onto the lever, and that holds all that in place. So the first thing I need to do is unpeg this and unpeg the hairspring to relieve it, and then I need to find a screw that fits into a very small hole on the movement, which is right there. So I need to go screw hunting again for this one, because this screw is stripped as well. When I got the watch, this lever was simply placed in there with the two pegs, the alignment holes, and that was it. So there was no attempt at replacing the screw or anything. But to find the screw and put it in place, I can't do all that with that hairspring attached, because then you're likely going to screw up the hairspring. So even though taking the stud out is a bit of a pain, I can do it under a microscope. There, I was able to extract that screw from that cock, and they're talking about screws and cocks. It always makes me nervous. So I don't think there's any human resources people in hearing distance I have to worry about. Anyway, this is a screw, and this goes in this little tiny hole here. So screw, cock, and hole. Never mind. Anyway, so I got to find an equivalent screw to this, because it's got to be long enough, and it can't be stripped. So this one is stripped. And it looks like someone tried to put some goo or something on there to make it stay, but it was a bad plan. So I'm pretty sure this thing is stripped. Because when I pulled up on it, it just pulled straight out, which would mean and imply that it was stripped. So I think I've got to go screw hunting again, find a decent screw that'll go in here, and something that's this long. And I can grab the screw using one of these here, and then just see how far down it goes. These are great for adjusting balance screws too, because they've got a bit of an indent in them, so the screw kind of stays in the center, and then when you squeeze it, it gets squeezed pretty darn hard. Now I gotta straighten it up a bit and just bring it down through the hole just a bit. Yeah, that's not even going in. So that was the problem there. This stupid screw wasn't even the right one. So whoever fixed this watch last time did a shitty job. Screwed up. So I'm going to go screw hunting again for one that's equivalent to that screw there that fits in that hole. My first shot's going to be these old vintage screws here to see if there's something at all in there that'll work, hopefully. And again, I don't really care about the screw head on here, because it just goes right down on that bridge. And the bridge simply holds the hairspring. So I don't care about what the head looks like. So now we're going to dump these screws again. And this is one of like 7 or 8 containers I have of screws. And last time it took me 2 hours to find the right screw, but I found it. And now I've got the actual pallet fork is snapping nicely back and forth, which should give a good amplitude to the watch. So what I do when I look for screws is I'll look at the existing one here, and then I'll just go through and see if I can find something like that, similar to that, and something like this that's sort of similar to that screw there. But again, don't know whether this screw like this would end up going into that hole and be the right one to get all the way down to the bottom. So I gotta try it out. There's no way that would work, because that might actually work. First screw, can't be. And I just screw it back and then back in again. Get another 5 degrees out of it. Screw it back and back in again. Another 5 degrees out of it. Screw it back and back in again. Another 5 degrees. Now if I screw it down too far, there's a chance that I need to know the actual depth of the bridge that I'm placing in there to make sure I'm going down far enough. Yeah, I'm going far enough. I'm looking at the bridge itself and how deep that is. So that might be the screw. So first screw I pick up, no way. And I've threaded the hole with using the screw. Let me just back this out completely now. Yeah. Very interesting. I'll just stick that in Rodico here. Just clean up any leftover elements. And it's almost the same length of the other screw. So now I'm just going to clean this screw mess up here so I don't have too much stuff on the table. And this is just the job of grabbing the screws. I usually grab them with my fingers and then throw them in the bucket. And this takes about 5 minutes to do. If for some reason that screw ends up becoming a problem, I'll just go back at it, find another screw, and do it until I'm good. And again, like I said before, it's all part of watchmaking. Just been given a notice that DHL e-commerce is having issues. Why I care? I don't know. I don't care. So now I can actually leave that cock actually pinching on the hairspring where it's supposed to, and just replace the balance and hairspring in one motion, and then put that back. That could be a bit tricky, but I may have to turn the radio on and listen to music while I'm doing that, because I can distract myself chatting away on these videos. So there we go. So that's that, and a little rubber band here to tie this stuff up. In case there's an earthquake, the screws will survive. Done. All right, now I need to replace this in here, so we'll do that in a second. Now I do put, this is my preference, but I put the complete balance in lighter fluid with the hairspring to degrease it and leave it there for a while, like 15 minutes should do. And then I agitate it a bit with a air puffer, and that just moves the stuff around, agitates it a bit, and I find that degums it. I had a problem once a while ago where I had a hairspring that was gummed up completely, and I left it in lighter fluid for half an hour while I ate lunch. And I came back and it was absolutely perfect. It was impeccable. So I find this works really well. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be back for hopefully a simple installation of this balance back where it belongs. So So there's the balance there hanging from the hairspring with that device there, and it turns out I made this little brass balance holder a while back. What's it called? There's a name for those things. I keep forgetting the names of them. Anyway, it's for holding the balance, and this fits over the top because I graved this down to a real good point. So I just let that sit there and dry. If I want to speed it up a bit, I can just do this, and that'll speed the lighter fluid up drying, and it'll dry nicely. The lighter fluid, I find, works really well. I've talked to many watchmakers over the years, and the old guys always use naphtha or lighter fluid to clean watches. Some people use lighter fluid and then they use alcohol. I don't know why you'd bother with alcohol, because the lighter fluid does not leave any residue. And I use the Zippo lighter fluid, so it seems to work well. I cleaned this particular movement in my Pearl watch machine with L&R professional watch cleaning fluid, so it got a really good clean. And I cleaned it. I did the cleaning cycle for half an hour. And normally you clean it for 5 or 10 minutes, and then you rinse, and then you rinse once, then you rinse twice, 2 different jars. Well, I left the thing in for half an hour because it's in a lot of gum and everything else, and I really wanted to get rid of it. So this balance is almost dry, I think, if it's not dried. There's a little bit of leftovers where the roller table is. Now, one thing I didn't check yet is if the jewel for the roller is there. I am hoping it's there. If it's not there, then I definitely have to unpin the hairspring. If it's there, then I can try it out and see what happens. I just got to get close here and have a look. Well, good news is I see a jewel. The other good news here is that the pivots actually look pretty good on this watch, given how old it is. And it's a single roller watch. It's not a double roller, so there's no safety roller on this. There is a dart on the pallet fork, and the dart on the pallet fork goes into a groove on the roller table to make sure that the pallet fork doesn't swing to the other side while the impulse jewel is on the wrong side. So that helps with all that. Now I got to get rid of this lighter fluid and just drink that down. Just kidding. Just put that aside. Sometimes I just let it sit and it'll evaporate overnight, or I just throw it on the sidewalk outside and it evaporates within seconds. Within seconds, I tell you. So let's see if anything works here. All right, I'm going to do this under camera, which is probably ill-advised, but I'm going to try to enter, because the pallet fork's on the far side, I'm going to enter it this way. And then swing it around this way. And then try to drop this bridge into place. Alright, there's some funky stuff going on here. The hairspring seems to be way over, which means that the bridge might not be in the right place here, because it's kind of all jerked up a little bit, so I got to figure this out here. it should be like that. Yeah, I'm just going to have to go away and figure this out and be right back. Something's funky going on with this little installation. Alright, some success here. I got it ticking, but I do have a problem, and the problem was the screw I got to fit into the slot here was too high up and it was touching the balance, so it wouldn't work. But look at that, the old bugger's ticking. Now, I'm not sure if I need to address that screw or not, because the plate here itself is holding this lower plate in the position, so it may not even need that screw, which would be perfect. So we're going to just let this run for a while. I'm going to put the balance screw in here, because this thing hasn't run in hundreds of years. I'm sure it's been hundreds of years. So at least 100 years. 1883, I think is what I said the vintage of this watch is. So that's a lot of years ago, folks. So let me just put this balance back in. This is amazing. This is the screw for the balance cock, and that's running nicely actually. And then the other screw is the one that I fitted for this little device here. I'm hoping it goes in. Alright, there we go. It's part way in. And that fits. Excellent. So there we go. I got it running. That screw there, though, I'm not, like, that screw there is the intent to hold the balance plate down. But this plate here on top holds that plate down. So I don't know if I even need that. That would be nice, because I don't want to have to shave down this screw here. I'm not sure how I would shave this down to get it to the right size and recut the slice for it. I'd have to find another screw that's like this one here. So I may hunt for one of those, but this is like exceptional. I got the watch running. I'll send a quick video to the owner, because basically he never thought this could ever work again. So I'm just going to make a quick video, and then this will be the end of this particular video for today, because I am tired. I am pooped. And there we go. I'm just going to let this run. I'm not sure what amplitude it has, but put it in slow motion, take a quick video, and look how many degrees of turn it has. Yeah, it's more than 365. That's really good. I'm impressed for an old watch like that. So we're just going to let this keep running, and I think I'll just let it run overnight just to work it in, and then we got ourselves a winner. I still have to figure out the screw, because I can show you this situation here, is that when this plate is screwed down, it is actually holding this cock down. So I might not need that screw at all, which would be great. But I did need this screw here to hold this down, and I got it working really well. The hairspring was a little off, and I just had to bend it to bring it down a bit, which I've done before, regulated the hairspring. And I'm not sure how accurate this is right now, but it is running, which is nice. So I can rebuild the watch tomorrow. And don't do it now because you're too tired. Just make the video and Go eat dinner.